SV Math Teacher reminding you to like and subscribe if you watch and use these videos in your class. With that said, today we're going to talk about the last item in Unit 4, two-way relative frequency tables. This is different than the last video because the last one only talked about frequency. Today we're going to relate that frequency to something. And there's a few things that you can relate frequencies to. You can relate frequencies to the total amount of people that were surveyed. You can relate it to only one of the two questions that you ask them, represented by rows, or by the other question you ask them, by columns. So you're allowed to actually ignore part of the data, but only focus on the other pieces. So relative is going to be relative to the question that you're being asked. So that's kind of key. There's a lot of interpretation in these things, and here's a pro tip. The name of the question or the question itself will often tell you exactly what to divide by. If a question talks about the row, then you're going to divide by the row total. If the question talks about a column, you're going to divide by the column total. If it just talks about a total, then you divide by the total in the bottom right-hand corner of your two-way frequency table. I'll give you an example. Here's the same exact two-way table from the last video. Do you like burritos and do you like sports? The data is the same. Three different questions, however, could be asked. I'm going to switch to pink here. Let's imagine that here is a task. Using the data above, make a total two-way frequency table. Well, I know that there's 40 people in total, so literally all I do is take every one of my numbers and divide them by 40, because the problem tells me that it wants a total two-way relative frequency table. So I divide every single one of those things by 40, and I write in the percentages, and I'm done. That's it, right? So total, because total was 40, so I divided by 40. Let's look at the next one down. A different scenario, a different question. Using the same data above, this is going to be different. Make a row two-way relative frequency table. Well, rows go left and right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my totals that go left and right, and I'm going to divide each of my rows by either 21, 19, or 40. And look what I do. I divide the top one all by 21. I divide the middle one all by 19, because that's its total, and I divide the bottom one all by 40. I think you're seeing a trend here, and then once again, I write in my percentages. Shouldn't surprise you that if we deal with the last one, which is column, look at this. We're dividing by the column totals, 23, 17, or 40. And again, writing in your percentages. So that is the basics of how to calculate this. Now, this gets tough when the questions start coming your way. So let's look at a few different examples and see if we could answer questions and be all done. First question, and these are all done for you, so I'm just kind of showing them off. First question, of the people who like burritos, what percent enjoy sports? So let's focus on this. We are not looking at everybody. We are only looking at the people who like burritos. Of the people who like burritos. So we are only looking at the people who think burritos are yummy. Of those people, what percent enjoy sports? So of those 21 people, what percent of those 21 people enjoy sports? So who likes the sports? This is the column that likes sports. So we're going to take 8 divided by 21. We're going to get 38%. My highlighting's starting to overdo it a little bit. We're going to get 38%, and the answer is 38% of the people who like burritos also enjoy sports. That's how this works. Let's look at a different question. Question number 2. Following the polling of 40 students, some decisions regarding the annual fun day are made. What percent of students will be happy with burritos and sports? Notice what it's asking. It's saying, what percent of students? It doesn't say students that like burritos or don't like burritos. Students that like sports or don't like sports. It just says what percent of students. So we're going to be dividing by the total. The total is 40, so I took every one of my numbers and I divided it by 40. And then I simply zeroed in on the people that were happy with burritos and happy with sports. Happy with burritos, happy with sports. Those two things overlap at 20%. So 20% of the students will be happy with burritos and sports. Notice how you have to really try to interpret the question to understand what to do. Let's do one last one and call it a day. Question number 3. What percent of students who do not like sports also dislike burritos? So one more time. The group that we begin talking about first is the group of students who do not like sports. So we find the students who do not like sports. There are 17 of those. So I'm going to focus on that column. Now, of those 17, which ones also think burritos are yucky? They dislike burritos? 4 out of 17. So 4 out of 17 in my chart was 24%. So 24% of students who dislike sports also dislike burritos. There is some reading comprehension that goes on in these questions. It makes them more challenging. But if you can break down what the question is asking for and be careful with your division, you will have no trouble calculating relative frequency tables.